Hey YouTube, Adam here again. Today I want to try something. I'm not sure how it's going to really work out. I have this Antec home theater PC case that fits in really well with my vintage recording area that I have set up in my studio. I'd like to just set my VCR on top of this thing, have them kind of go together, and be able to do VHS transfers. I have this Dazzle device. From what I have seen, I'm going to link a video down below here. But I've seen this is an excellent device for doing these kind of transfers. And the core of the system today is going to be an old Pentium anniversary edition processor. This is a G3258. This is a dual core, 2-thread, so no hyper-threading, overclockable CPU from, I don't know how long ago, quite a few years ago. It was the 20th anniversary of the Pentium, so probably at this point that's I think a 3rd or 4th generation Intel Core CPU. So it's pretty old, but we're going to be using this Asrock Z97 anniversary motherboard with that Pentium processor. If that doesn't work out, this is just going to be doing VHS transfers. So it's standard definition video that we're going to be working with. I think it will probably be okay. I've never installed Windows 11 on something so not powerful, but I do want to see, I've never actually overclocked one of these. I want to see what we can do with that with this motherboard. And if it doesn't work out, we can always go to an i5 or something. This is just a Z95 motherboard, so we have a lot of other CPUs that we can choose from. The other reason I don't think it's going to be a huge concern is that we're going to be offloading video stuff to this 1050 Ti. So I think the 1050 Ti is going to be doing most of the actual heavy lifting. We have 16 gigabytes of Corsair DDR3 memory, a Samsung SSD, and then I'm also, this case is actually really neat. It's really heavy even when it's empty. This is a who makes this? It's Seasonic 300 watt power supply. I hope that will be sufficient for what we're doing. This case has all these like modular bits. How do you remove this? There we go. You just gotta pull stuff out. I like the design quite a bit. I don't know what year this is from. I've had it for a really long time. I'm again sure it's a discontinued case. The only negative on it is that it only has 3 fan openings, and it uses low profile cards, which I like the low profile. But because it's so low profile, it only can fit 80mm fans. I have some Noctuas on the way, but they're not here, so we're just going to make do. This has like 1 case fan, and I think I have an Arctic 80mm fan around somewhere as well. It has these neat little drive sleds that just kind of pull out here, so we can fit 2 regular drives. And then I'm going to use this, since it doesn't really have a provision for an SSD, to take out one of the slots. This actually can mount 2 SSDs. I'm only going to use it for 1, but we will have that mounted there. At some point, I might look into getting a better sound solution. This motherboard has, I guess, ELNA audio. I don't really know how good that is, but it's a pretty basic sound, built-in sound card. And we are going to be dealing with capturing analog audio with this machine, so I'm going to see how that goes, but I might have to try to find some sort of PCI low-profile solution if that doesn't work out. This case is old, but it's not so old that it doesn't have USB 3. And we're going to be pretty much maxing this case out in terms of what we can mount in it. I think we're going to have 1 expansion slot left. Oh yeah, it has this thing that comes out. I think we're going to have like 1 expansion slot left. So I am going to get started mounting up the motherboard. Oh, another thing I like is it comes with these standoffs. I love the kind of standoffs that have the little peg that comes up so that the motherboard gets held in. So I need to find the I/O shield and get some stuff going here. All right, so we got our CPU in place. As I mentioned in the video where I removed this cooler, the only downside of this cooler is that it requires you to remove the motherboard in a lot of these cases, because you have to be able to get access to the back side of the board, and most home theater style PC cases that I've seen do not have cutouts for the back side of the motherboard. So if I do have to swap out the CPU, I get to take the computer apart again, which is great. All right, so we are mounted up here. Get this out of the way and start getting the board installed here. One thing to note about this power supply is, again, it's a 300 watt power supply and it only has one 4-pin CPU power, so that could certainly be an issue with some boards, but not this one. Alright, the cables are managed in that I managed to jam them all in there. That'll do. I need to get the low profile bracket cover for this. I believe it's in this box. I usually just throw all the components in the box. Is this it? There we go. Alright, one low profile bracket installed. I'm going to throw the high profile one back in the box so I know where it is if I ever need it. Let's get our slot cover taken care of here. I'm going to put the memory in actually before we do this. So this GPU does not require any additional power. Get this power from the PCIe bus. Alright, let's see how this thing works out. Get the audio cable out of the way. I kind of wish it was open on the other way. They could have probably designed this a little better, but it was cheap and it will do. Alright, so the last thing I need to do before this thing is ready to have a boot test is I want to put in a Blu-ray drive. So I have this LG Blu-ray drive that we're going to replace this CD-ROM drive with. So if I ever want to play a Blu-ray or rip a Blu-ray, I can. This is going to be kind of a hybrid computer that's going to be a media center PC for my office, because I have one for our living room, and then I have one for our little like den area. I don't actually have one for my studio area, so this is going to pull double duty. Alright, so everything in this thing is now mounted up. We got our Blu-ray drive. I believe I have all the power stuff. Oh, there's a fan I still need to install. Better do that real quick. So the Windows Tiny installer would not complete successfully on the Pentium system. I don't think it's the motherboard or the chipset. They're newer than a lot of other machines. It's probably the dual-core Pentium not having some sort of something that is being expected. I did get it to boot into whatever random installation of Windows 11 was on there. So I am using a different PC right now to install Windows on this SSD, and when the installation is done, we'll pull the drive and do the first boot on the other machine and see how that goes. Alright, we got the drive hooked back up. We're going to turn it on and see. That was loud. We'll see if we can boot into Windows. Yeah. Well, I tried reseating the memory, but we're still having issues. Now that issue seems more like what I might expect. The no memory thing was interesting. I might pull out some different RAM modules and see there could potentially be something wrong with this. I used to having to troubleshoot. Usually things just work. Computer encountered an unexpected error. Windows. It wants me to restart the installation. That's fantastic. Alright, I got some different memory modules in there. And it seemed like it could be progressing. It got to like the mid-20s, I think, last time it crashed. Not even necessarily that those memory modules are bad. They just might be incompatible in some way or something. I will test them further. This means we only have 8 gigabytes of memory on this machine right now. I'm going to dig through my stockpile and see if I can find some more. really don't run Windows on less than 16. 16 is kind of my minimum these days, but we'll see how she goes. Well, would you look at that? We don't have any graphics card drivers installed, so it's not exactly a pleasant experience here with the Windows thingy. But we're good to go. So I'm going to get all this set up and we'll get to a desktop. Alright, so we got everything set up here. Drivers are installed and stuff. Let's see if we can even play YouTube at any sort of quality here. So that should mostly be, you know, the GPU should be helping out. And it seems like it's pretty okay. So that works fine, even at this. We're at 100% CPU usage, but it manages. So now, before we go ahead and overclock this thing, I want to run our Cinebench scores and set some record lows. Alright, let's light this candle. It's loading from a network drive, so it takes a moment sometimes. Alright, so 134. Let's run. It should be not necessarily so bad in the single core department. I mean, it's not going to be great, but we'll see. Okay, we got a 79 on the single core. Not great. So let's run the OpenGL, see what we get. And 82.77. And we're going to try to run Cinebench R20 here. We ended up with a 488 for the multi-core. And we're going to run the single core here as well. And we end up with 263. So basically at this point I'm just building out my database. I ended up swapping over to an i5 4690. This is an example of some of the capture stuff I've been doing with this machine. And it has a relatively low CPU impact. I am sure it could be just fine running on that dual core Pentium, but I wanted to have better Windows performance and stuff, so it just made sense. And I don't want to take the chance of frame skipping and stuff. So all in all, I've actually captured at this point, this is post production voiceover here, I've captured a few dozen videotapes now using this machine, and it is flawless. The quality that comes out is really good. Of course, VHS tapes have degraded, so it's going to vary quite a bit based on what tapes you're using and stuff, but this machine works well for its purpose. It was basically almost free to put together with stuff I had lying around. The only thing I purchased was the Dazzle itself on eBay, and then the Noctua fans. I did end up purchasing a sound card as well, a Creative Sound Blaster low profile PCIe, so that I can have a little bit more options for inputs and stuff like that. But this machine is part of an entire ecosystem of machines that I'm using to capture both personal home videos and a bunch of retro commercials. I've actually launched a second channel where I'm going to be posting all that retro commercial goodie stuff as it goes. I've been dabbling around with some Topaz AI video upscaling as well. So that obviously is not going to be done on this particular machine. But I think I'm relatively satisfied with the results of that. So I'm purchasing some parts to put together a dedicated machine so it doesn't tie up my other machine, my main machine, because it takes forever to do the AI upscaling, and I would like to just have a machine that I can just kind of set in a corner and have it do nothing else, and it won't bother me while I'm trying to get other projects or just use my own main computer. So that will be coming in the future. thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm going to link down in the video description to the video that I used to set up this Dazzle. I haven't tried other capture devices. I have some other analog capture devices that I may try, but I'm not really sure I want to because the results that I've seen are very good for this one. So thank you for watching. I will see you in future videos.